White House release published Tuesday, January 13, 2026. Nominations sent to the Senate. The President has sent a series of nominations to the Senate for consideration. Ademola Adewale Sadiq of New York is nominated as United States Director of the African Development Bank for 5 years. Charlton Allen of North Carolina is nominated as General Counsel of the Federal Labor Relations Authority for 5 years. Matthew Anderson of Colorado is nominated as Deputy Administrator of NASA. Jeffrey Anderson of Georgia is nominated as Representative to the Council of the International Civil Aviation Organization, with the rank of Ambassador. Brian Barber of Louisiana is nominated as United States Marshal for the Western District of Louisiana for 4 years. Lee Beeman of Tennessee is nominated to the Board of Directors of the Tennessee Valley Authority, term expiring May 18, 2030. Scott Bessent of South Carolina is nominated as United States Governor to several international banks and funds for 5 years. Brian Birdwell of Texas is nominated as Assistant Secretary of Defense. James Bishop of North Carolina is nominated as United States Attorney for the Middle District of North Carolina for 4 years. Daniel Bonham of Oregon is nominated as Assistant Secretary of Labor. John Breslow of Arizona is nominated as Ambassador to Cyprus. Wesley Brooks of Florida is nominated as Assistant Secretary of State for Oceans and International Environmental and Scientific Affairs. Jeremy Carl of Montana is nominated as Assistant Secretary of State for International Organizations. Robert Cicada of Florida is nominated as Director of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Walter Clayton of New York is nominated as United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York for 4 years. Carter Crowe of Texas is nominated as General Counsel of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission for 4 years. Austin Dahmer of Arizona is nominated as Assistant Secretary of Defense. Christopher Michael DeBono of the District of Columbia is nominated as Associate Judge of the Superior Court of the District of Columbia for 15 years. John DeLue of Texas is nominated as member of the National Transportation Safety Board for the remainder of a term expiring December 31, 2026. Irving Dennis of Ohio is nominated as Chief Financial Officer at the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Mark Ditlevson of Minnesota is nominated as Assistant Secretary of Defense. Daniel Edwards of North Carolina is nominated as Assistant Secretary of Transportation. Edward Epler of Connecticut is nominated as Chief Financial Officer at the Department of Transportation. Paul Ferguson of West Virginia is nominated as United States Marshal for the Northern District of West Virginia for 4 years. Gregory Gilmore of Illinois is nominated as United States Attorney for the Central District of Illinois for 4 years. Brian Gutkin of Montana is nominated as United States Marshal for the District of Montana for 4 years. Thomas Govan Jr. of Alabama is nominated as United States Attorney for the Middle District of Alabama for 4 years. Michael Graham of Virginia is reappointed as member of the National Transportation Safety Board, term expiring December 31, 2030. Stephen Haynes of Virginia is nominated as Assistant Secretary of Commerce. Lindsay Robin Michelle Halligan of Colorado is nominated as United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia for 4 years. Robert Harvey of Florida is nominated as Federal Maritime Commissioner, term expiring June 30, 2029. William Hughes III of Mississippi is nominated as Commissioner on the Consumer Product Safety Commission for 7 years from October 27, 2024. George Holding of North Carolina is nominated as United States Director to the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. Kenneth Jackson of Texas is nominated to the Board of Directors at the Inter-American Foundation, term expiring September 20, 2028. Jeffrey Kaufman of Iowa is nominated to the Board of Directors at the Federal Agricultural Mortgage Corporation. Michael Kavukjian of Florida is nominated as Ambassador to Norway. Richard Closter of West Virginia is nominated to the Surface Transportation Board, term expiring December 31, 2028. Sriprakash Kothari of Massachusetts is nominated as Assistant Secretary of the Treasury. Benjamin Landa of New York is nominated as Ambassador to Hungary. Lee Lipton of Florida is nominated as Ambassador to the Philippines. Gregory Lejarfo of Massachusetts is nominated as Coordinator for Counterterrorism with the rank and status of Ambassador at Large. Anthony Lomangino of Florida is nominated as Governor on the United States Postal Service Board, term expiring December 8, 2031. William Long of Missouri is nominated as Ambassador to Iceland. Priscilla Lopez of Florida is nominated as United States Marshal for the Southern District of Florida for 4 years. David McNeil of Florida is nominated as Federal Trade Commissioner for 7 years from September 26, 2025. Ryan McCormick of Virginia is nominated as Undersecretary of Transportation for Policy. Casey Means of California is nominated as Medical Director in the Public Health Service and Surgeon General for 4 years. Eric Meyer of California is nominated as Ambassador to Sri Lanka. Joseph Nacella of New York is nominated as United States Attorney for the Eastern District of New York for 4 years. Jared Novelli of Missouri is nominated to be Ambassador to New Zealand, and will also serve as Ambassador to Samoa, the Cook Islands, and Niue. Savalas of California is nominated to be Assistant Secretary of Transportation in a new position. Stevan Pierce of New Mexico is nominated to be Director of the Bureau of Land Management. Sean Planky of Pennsylvania is nominated to be Director of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency at the Department of Homeland Security. Arvind Rahman of Indiana is nominated to be Undersecretary of Commerce for Standards and Technology. Laken Rapier of Texas is nominated to the Board of Directors of the African Development Foundation for a term ending in September 2027. Ryan Raybould of Texas is nominated to be United States Attorney for the Northern District of Texas for a 4-year term. Robert Rotter of Iowa is nominated to be United States Marshal for the Northern District of Iowa for a 4-year term. Daniel Satterlee of South Dakota is nominated to be United States Marshal for the District of South Dakota for a 4-year term. Glenn Smith of Iowa is nominated to be Undersecretary of Agriculture for Rural Development. David Street Pierre of Maine is nominated to be United States Marshal for the District of Maine for a 4-year term. James Stewart of Minnesota is nominated to be United States Marshal for the District of Minnesota for a 4-year term. Robert Sweeney of Texas is nominated to be United States Director of the Asian Development Bank with the rank of Ambassador. Alexander Velez Green of Virginia is nominated to be Deputy Undersecretary of Defense. Russell Vaught of Virginia is nominated to the Board of Directors at both the African Development Foundation and Inter-American Foundation, with terms ending in September 2027 and September 2030, respectively. Frank Weiland from the District of Columbia is nominated to be Assistant Secretary of State for International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs. Jennifer Wicks McNamara from Virginia is nominated to be Ambassador to Vietnam. Philip Williams Jr. from Alabama is nominated to be United States Attorney for the Northern District of Alabama for a 4-year term. Thanks for listening. The full source material for this summary is in the description below.